What's up guys, it's Cobalt here and welcome back to another video. Today I am unveiling my newest Fundraiser custom. This is going to be the fourth time that I've done this. I'm going to say a couple things before I show you guys the custom and then say a few more things regarding this all after. But basically how these Fundraiser customs work is I put them on eBay at a set bidding price. The starting bid for this guy, just like my previous ones, is going to be $50. And then from there you guys can bid on it to increase the price, and obviously if you win the bid you will be paying whatever the final price is and you will be essentially buying this custom, but then all of that money raised will then be donated to a specific charity, which I will also be sharing with you guys in a moment. So obviously I'm not making any money from this. Even the added extra fees on eBay, such as like tax and shipping and stuff like that, that comes out of my own pocket, will also be going to the donation money. But anyways, as you can see, the custom is behind me. You can see the little pride flag on there. So I absolutely did intend for this to be a pride custom, but obviously it is now July, which I found out that July is Disability Pride Month. So that's cool. I didn't actually know that before, but it doesn't matter that June and Pride Month are over because Pride is year-round, and just because it's not necessarily celebrated outside of the month of June does not make it any less relevant. So obviously for this project I did want it to directly benefit queer people and have the money go to a queer charity, but more specifically I wanted it to benefit transgender people because obviously, especially right now, at least here in the United States, that is one of the most persecuted groups in the country right now, along obviously still with immigrants and people of color. My most recent fundraiser that I did before this was anti-ICE. Obviously I am all for diversity, and I feel like all different types of people are what empower a community. And legitimately, like, the more people that you know that have different backgrounds from you, the more fulfilling your life is, because you learn about all of these different experiences that you may not have ever known of. And it generally just makes you a kinder person because you actually can understand and empathize with people once you actually get to know them and understand their struggles. Because there's a lot of people that are going to shit on this video just like they did on my last one, which I don't care, because at the end of the day I know those people are grossly undereducated, and I would implore you to go seek out unbiased news sources and actually speak to people who are from these communities, speak to people who are immigrants or have immigrant parents, speak to people who are queer or transgender to understand how they are. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what other people are doing with their lives. And it's so stupid that this has become so politicized in this country and other Western countries as well. For example, yesterday the Supreme Court just upheld 2 state bans on transgender youths in regards to participation in school sports. So again, even though Pride Month is over, that makes this project even more relevant than it already was. I will be putting some links down below in the description where you can learn more about this, but basically this means that transgender students are no longer federally protected, and it is now up to the states. So obviously a lot of states, especially red ones that have already banned access to healthcare for trans youth, are now also going to be able to ban access for trans kids from playing in sports on a team that aligns with their gender identity. The charity/organization that I've also decided this money is going to be donated to is called Trans Equality Now. They're advocates for trans equality, obviously, and I'll be putting their links to their Instagram and website down below in the description. But in an Instagram post where they were directly speaking about this, I just wanted to read out this quote because I think it's very well said. "Schools should be places where every student can learn, grow, and thrive safely, regardless of race, gender, background, or identity. Instead, this ruling threatens to create fear, humiliation, and exclusion for countless young peoples and families," because obviously this is not going to just affect the small, minute portion of transgender students who want to play sports, but also everyone in general, because transvestigation is real and affects cis people as well. If you're a masculine cis woman and somebody doesn't think you are cis, they're probably going to harass you because they think you are transgender. So again, this affects everybody. The way fascism works is they target the smallest, most vulnerable groups in your community. If we want to get even more down to it, this would probably be trans women of color, but also trans children, because historically children obviously do not have the same rights as adults, which in some circumstances that absolutely does protect children, but at the same time children know what they're talking about and they know about their own feelings. If a child tells you that they are gay or trans, listen to them, because they know themselves more than anybody else in the world. Waiting until they become 18 is not going to change anything. In fact, that will vastly increase the difficulties that they are going to face growing up. And everyone should have the same access to basic human rights, regardless of these uncontrollable aspects of themselves. Obviously, there's still more things I want to say about this, but now let's get on to the custom, because I am so happy with the way that this custom came out. I've definitely been one-upping myself every single time with these projects, and this is definitely one of the coolest ones that I've done. So let me show them to you now. So here is the custom. As you can see, there is a lot going on here. It's also kind of a 2-in-1 because this was created using 2 Littlest Pet Shops. So let me do a full kind of turnaround for you guys. You can see everything a little bit better. As you can see, the main statement of today's video, and then here's what the bottom looks like as well, with the paw pads and my signature. So basically, for the creation of this custom, the head is taken taken from a G2 polar bear. The entire body is sculpted with super sculpey oven baked clay, and then the claws are sculpted with Neathite just for some extra strength because that's a stronger clay. And then the flag draped across the body here, that again you can see on the back with this message, is also sculpted using super sculpey. And then the little bear cup here is a G7 base that is glued on, so they are fully attached, you can't remove them. And then I did add a little bit of sculpting on the cheeks and the ears because I wanted to remove the fluffiness that the actual polar bear cub has. If I actually bring out the base here, you can see like the fluffy ears and the fluffy cheeks. I wanted it to be smoothed out because this custom is actually inspired by my little Pride Pandas characters. I'll put some of them up on the screen. These are some Pride themed customs that I have made in previous years, and I fully intended to make these like Pride Pandas as well, but obviously these are just regular ass bears. I don't know why I didn't clock that until I was like halfway done painting them, and I was like, oh, whoops, these aren't pandas. But you know, it gets the same point across. I still think they're super cute characters, and I mean, this character that's representing like the normal gay pride flag is a bear. If you know what that means, there you go. But basically, I also wanted to highlight a couple other artists, so I will put the art and the Instagram handles on the screen now. So these are some artworks that I had seen this year and some previous years that I really love the theming of, especially when it comes to the protect trans kids / protect trans youth message, which for starters, both those messages are really saying the same thing. But the reason why I decided to write trans youth instead of trans kids is because youth also includes teenagers and just minors in general. Obviously a 17-year-old is still a minor, but they're not necessarily a kid. They're almost 18 and they're almost there to start like forming their own choices in society. But any ban on trans healthcare is still going to affect them, even though they are almost deemed by society to have like full bodily and mental autonomy. They're still not allowed to, if that makes sense. So I just did that to be more inclusive of anyone all the way to the age of 17, you know? And even young adults as well kind of count as youth. I'm 22, I still kind of feel like a youth, you know? But basically to me, what these drawings are highlighting is an elder queer person protecting the trans youth, the trans kid. So that is what I wanted to establish here with this custom. So this character, the larger one with the fully sculpted body, this brown bear, I guess, is the queer elder. And I also wanted to make these customs kind of gender ambiguous. So any pronouns, whatever, they can be anything to you. So I wanted them to both have like those androgynous, but also somewhat masculine and somewhat feminine qualities. I feel like a bear is a little bit more masculine, but then I also added like the little eyelashes and stuff and the glitter to the nose and the eyes and the glitter on this one's claws, for example. But then I really loved the idea of like the scratches kind of showing the rainbow underneath. So this is a character who has fought for the rights of all of the people below them who have come after, but have obviously still been at the forefront of that, where this character hasn't really experienced that yet, but obviously they are going to experience that eventually. That's why this one also has its claws out and kind of like a protective stance. I was originally thinking of having the cub kind of like right here, maybe like kind of cradled in the body, but I thought that I also kind of wanted it to be on the top to have a little bit more of an empowering position, because again, children are often significantly undermined in our society and their voices are still important and should still be listened to. And then of course the flag that is draped across the body here is the most updated version of the Progress Pride flag, but then I also wanted the protect trans youth message here on the back. I didn't really feel like it needed to be established on the front because you can already kind of like read into it with what I've established here with this artwork, but I'm really happy with the way that the colors came out and how clean the stripes are. But since we're here, let's talk about the Progress Pride flag. So again, this is the most updated version. Obviously we have the standard rainbow pride flag, which is kind of like the most iconic version and most standard version of the pride flag. Obviously it's still changed a little bit throughout history, but the classic rainbow is kind of what we often most associate with the general queer umbrella. But then the black and brown stripes were added to include people of color, because again, obviously a queer person of color is going to be a lot more discriminated against. And then of course the blue, pink, and white stripes represent trans people, because again, I think this is important to mention, and also something that I kind of wanted to establish here with this custom is that oftentimes there is a little bit of a disconnect between LGB people and trans people. There are even some queer people who fall into the first three letters of that category who don't think that trans people should fall under the same queer umbrella, which is just so dumb. Part of these people's reasonings is that it should just include sexuality and not necessarily gender identity, but that phrasing is obviously just meant to exclude people that they don't agree with for whatever reason. But no matter where you fall under that queer umbrella, we are all still discriminated against for the same reason. So there's no point in trying to force separation within that own community when we should be banded together to support each other and move forward to progress basic human rights, because that's really what this is all about. And of course, if you didn't know, within the trans pride flag and other pride flags that have a white stripe. The white stripe also represents non-binary people, so you can also see that in the lesbian pride flag and the gay man pride flag. And then finally, the piece of the progress pride flag that has been most recently added is this yellow stripe with the purple circle, which represents intersex people, which I think a lot of people still don't know about. Basically, intersex people often will have different chromosomes that don't necessarily line up with their gender assigned at birth, or will have different secondary sex characteristics as they progress through puberty and into adulthood. And a lot of people also exclude and undermine intersex people because, again, it's so much less understood than anything else under the queer umbrella. So I think it's very important that that's also been included into the pride flag, because also, if you didn't know, intersex people are just as common as people with red hair. And I think that's a really great analogy because obviously someone with red hair, you can easily see that characteristic about them, where if somebody's intersex, you probably won't ever know. And even that intersex person themselves may not find out until well into their life. But yeah, I'm super proud of this custom. I also really love both of the eyes of the characters. Even though I originally intended them to be pandas, I did still plan on giving them kind of natural color palettes and then having the colors for their queer identity come out in different aspects of them. So again, with the bear, we have the rainbow scratch marks, and then we have the rainbow eyes, which were very hard to paint, but I think the gradient turned out pretty good. And then there's some purple hearts in there, and I liked the idea of doing the flower eye shines. There's not really a specific reason for that other than I like the way that it looked with the shapes and the colors and the glitter. I also included a little heart on the nose, and then on both of the bears there are hearts on the backs of their ears, and on the little cub there's also a heart on its chest, as you can see there, which is also something that I would do with my pride pandas. They have the pride flags on the ears and then a little heart on their chest. And then you can see here with the cub, it's mostly the pink shining through, but it is still the trans flag colors, and then I did a little blue heart there. And then aside from that, the eyes are painted in the same style. But yeah, I'm just super proud of this custom, and I really hope that you guys enjoy it as well. Obviously, I fully understand if you are not interested in actually being part of the bidding process and the actual fundraiser itself, but if you guys want to share this video or even my Instagram post to spread the word and spread awareness, that would be super cool. Again, if you know trans or queer people in your community and in your life, check in with them, make sure they're doing okay. It's definitely a scary time for people of any minority group, especially if you live in the US right now, but I know that even in countries like the UK and stuff, it's becoming more and more conservative. Even though for like the past decade, we had honestly been kind of progressing in a more inclusive and positive direction, but where it stands right now, we are definitely taking several steps back, and it's not just going to be a change in leadership that fixes this problem. It has to be deeper and on a more community-driven and individual level. Your voice is important, your votes matter. If you have a platform of any kind, I do legitimately think that it is important to use that to speak about issues like this. Because like I said in the beginning, trans identities have now become political, when someone's own right to mental and bodily autonomy should never be political whatsoever. If you're not queer and you don't think that this affects you, it does. This will affect everyone, because you gotta start somewhere, and once you can strip away the rights of one group of people, then you can continuously go up that ladder and keep taking away rights. Human rights are not up for debate. Human rights are not political. Human rights should be equal to every single individual person, regardless of who they are or where they stand. Again, all of the money that is raised through this custom will be donated to Trans Equality Now. All of their links, like I said, will be down below in the description, and you can also find the bidding link to these guys on my eBay down below in the description as well. I will also be putting all of this information in the pinned comment, my community tab, and on Instagram as well. So again, spread the word. I would really appreciate it. And I also appreciate all the support that you've given me with these projects so far. Once sold, I will immediately donate the money and then post on my community tab and my Instagram story showing how much we raised. With the previous custom that I did, we ended up raising around $300 that was donated to the ACLU, which is super cool. That's the most money that's been raised so far through one of these projects, and again, really appreciate the support. I would also consider doing some of your own research to see how you can get involved in your communities to help support different minority groups around you, and organizations like the ACLU make that super easy. So I'll also be putting a link to their full site down below in the description as well, because I really appreciate what they're doing, especially when it comes to legal activism. That's another reason why I chose Trans Equality Now, is because they also help fight for legal and political rights of trans people in America, and this helps to block and combat anti-trans bills that are trying to be passed even now. So I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to say. Again, resources down below in the description. Please spread the word about this custom. I would really appreciate it. Free Palestine, fuck ICE, protect trans kids. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!